Back in 2021, I fell into what was the deepest music production rut that I've ever experienced. 2 years of not feeling good enough, of not feeling confident enough, and not making much progress until finally I made this release. I became a music production coach since then, and hundreds of students later, I'm teaching the same thing. It's because we all go through it. So this feeling of being blocked, it's almost always a symptom of one of three main factors, and they work as part of a system. So you have to, in fact, unblock all three of them to make it work. You can think of it like a water pipe. If you want the water to actually flow through the system, you need all of the three taps to be open. The good news is that once you open these three taps, it's actually the same system that keeps you blocked as the one that builds lasting confidence and creative momentum. Awesome. So what are they? Number one is probably the most important and immediate one. Without this, the other ones just don't fucking matter. I call it the how problem. This is the moment that you're feeling stuck and you're not sure how to improve. You're stuck, but you don't know why you're stuck. This comes from a lack of knowledge, otherwise you would probably know what your problem is. As a coach, this is actually exactly what I'm looking for. It's a good thing in many cases, because hunting down these knowledge gaps is the aim here. So this is actually a very instructional moment. So next time you feel stuck in a way that you're not sure why or how, what you need to do is stop, grab a pen or at least a blank document and write down, 1, what's making you feel stuck, and 2, the specific thing that is holding you back. We're very subjective creatures, us humans, and it's very hard to see our own flaws. Separation from the problem is the key here, and this is the thing that's going to allow you the clarity to actually solve it. If you want to overcome this how problem with some structure, you need some workflow. I'm literally giving away my entire process for free. It's very detailed and it's in the description below. Go check it out. Okay, so let's say you've got some creative energy flowing. That tap is on, the water is going into the pipe and in through this system. We've reached block 1, and we talked about that is the how problem. So this is actually diagnosis. Awesome, so we've diagnosed the problem and now we can continue moving on towards block number 2. Okay, so number 2, this one held me back big time. This is actually the reason why I was so stuck in 2021. This was the downfall. So at that time, I just signed my biggest label release. It was my debut vinyl EP on my dream label. Things were looking good. And after that, what happened is I started turning down opportunities that I was getting because I was wanting to try and improve on what I had just done. I wanted another really good label to back it up. What actually happened was I got really deeply into my own head, and because the bar was set so high, I didn't give myself a chance. All of a sudden there was immense pressure. See what happened here? If you're feeling music production is becoming more stressful, it's becoming more like a chore, I would recommend to take a step back and instead of trying to make the best track or signing to the best label or always trying to achieve the best, try and make something bad. Try and make something terrible and see what happens there. Next time you sit down to make music, start with 0 expectations of trying to make something and a really clear objective. So like, I'm just gonna focus on this one technique. I'm just gonna focus on this one synthesizer. I'm just gonna try and make a really nice pad, or I'm just gonna play and see what happens. Most of the time it just ends up being a song anyway. All right, so block number 2. Now the solution to this so we can move on, continue moving through this system is relief. We have to relieve ourselves of this self-imposed pressure, and that will provide us with a bit of creative freedom, right? Number 3 is like the glue that holds things together. This is the final tap that once you get it going, it's going to build confidence in your creativity. Producers forget that you need to, in fact, prove to yourself that you can do all of the steps that are required to produce and release music. Because in the moment that you feel the self-doubt really start to grip, if you've got no proof, it's like you've got no safety handles. You've got nothing to hold on to. The proof is the other voice in your head that goes, you know what? I actually am good enough. Like, this is just an intrusive thought. So then the question becomes, how do we prove to ourselves that our music is good enough? We need to build up some evidence. What is the evidence? The evidence is past songs that you've finished and released. In 2020, I produced a track every week for a year, ended up with over 60 tracks in a spreadsheet. That was my evidence to say to myself, hey, I can in fact finish music. I can finish this if I really wanted to. If you've never released something before, I would recommend going with a self-release first. That way you've got some music out and you can look back and be like, I did that. This is the thing that I did, and that is giving me the evidence to know that I can do it again. Or if you have released stuff before, putting it all in one spot so you can actually see it. That's a SoundCloud playlist, or maybe printing out the design of an artwork for an EP that you've done and like putting it on your wall. Having something to remind you that you can in fact do it when you feel the self-doubt start to grip. Awesome. So final block here, we actually need to prove to ourselves so that we can actually trust and believe in our process, right? Then with all of these three things combined, that's when we have our little bit of creative freedom, creative expression. Then we can finally get into the flow of actually just making music, right? That's what it's all about in the end. So let's say you've got all of these three things unblocked. It actually doesn't matter if we don't have this tap on in the first place. If this thing is turned off, all of these things don't matter. And it's a bit of a complex issue. If you're stressed, if you're in a place where you don't have the creative energy, then this tap isn't going to be on. A big sign of maturity as an artist is being all right with that, knowing what that feels like and dealing with that also. So dealing with all of these main blockages and also just the tap itself, the creative energy. There's lots of steps here. You can tell why it's complex. Big part of this is proving that your workflow is working for you. Everyone needs their own tailored workflow, but instead of painstakingly figuring that out for yourself, don't do that. Just go down to the description. I will give you my full in-depth breakdown. It's very detailed of my own workflow. So you can just take that and just extract what works for you and just create your own process that way. Easy.